So let's move on to the Owls. We were talking about the Blades. We were saying that it looks like a foregone conclusion. And with Wednesday, that didn't seem to be the case up until literally this week. They're obviously down there in the Championship, in the relegation zone currently, only with 23 points. But they now are, after a disappointing 1-1 draw last weekend with Stoke at home, which was a real 6-pointer. They are now the bookies' favourites in the Championship to go down, along with Rotherham, who are already confirmed to be down there. The odds of that is 1-3, so that's pretty damning for Wednesday. That looks like that could be a complete Yorkshire treble, possibly on the cards there. Wednesday, Rotherham and Huddersfield, which wouldn't be great for this part of the world, would it, mate?
No.
Essentially, yeah, let's just have a sort of a little overview, I suppose, of Wednesday's season up to now. Back in September, it's been a real topsy-turvy season, as you can imagine, but back in September, the owner, Depton Chansiri, said he wouldn't be putting any more money into the club, which is not really what you want to be hearing from your owner, is it, when you're already struggling in the league? And he also went on to say that protests are a waste of time, which I'm not really sure how much I agree with that, to be honest. No democracy allowed for Mr. Chansiri, apparently. Just back onto the season's progress, I suppose. A month later, October time, Chisco Munoz was the manager at the time. He was sacked after the first 10 games, after starting the season with 0 wins and Wednesday being rooted to the bottom of the table. Since then, they've brought in Danny Rowe, who's got a pretty interesting CV. He's worked as a coach at Leipzig, at Southampton. He was even the assistant manager of the German national team, which brings quite a little bit of credibility. He is only 34, so there was a certain degree of risk with that appointment, but they have to a certain extent turned things round under Roll, really, Wednesday. I suppose he was tasked with a real great escape, but at one point about 2-3 weeks ago, it looked like they might have achieved that. Maybe they still will, but the odds of that happening have been mightily slashed, I would say. Since he's come in, he's got 13 wins and 6 draws, which, considering they didn't have a single win in the first 10 games, that's pretty impressive. But to be fair, in the last 7 games, they've only got 1 win, and that is really, that really looks like that'll be the point in which they've been hamstrung in their plight for this so-called great escape, which seems to have been derailed with this form. Back in January, they brought in Ike Ugbo, who's a striker with championship experience. He got 5 goals in his first 8 games. Things were looking up. Wednesday went on a real good run early February to early March, where they won 5 out of 6 games. The only loss in that time was against Leicester City, who were obviously the odds-on favourites to go on and win the title. So that's nothing to be ashamed of, I would say. However, since those first 8 games, in his last 8, he's only got 1 goal, and it seems that with his form and his goals drying up, that seems to be where Wednesday's wins have started drying up as well, mate. As I said, looking at whether they can pull off this great escape with Roll, they've got 3 games left to do it. There's 9 points available. The firstly they go to away this weekend, Blackburn away, who've just got themselves to 49 points. They look safe, Blackburn, now, so I think Wednesday will really try and earmark that one as... well, it's a must-win anyway, but even more so with Blackburn, in theory, not having anything to play for, that really could be one that Wednesday could go there and, have a go and try and get 3 points at Ewood Park, because, Blackburn might be, as they say, the old chestnut, already on the beach and waiting for summer. After that, it's a really tough one. They got West Brom at home, although it's a Hillsborough. West Brom look like they're going to finish in the playoff positions, so they've still got something to play for, and West Brom are a far superior side than Wednesday this season, and they have been for a long while, especially with Wednesday being in the 3rd tier the season before. And then finally, the last game of the season is away at the Stadium of Light against Sunderland. Much like Blackburn, while Sunderland in theory don't have anything to play for, it looks mathematically impossible for Sunderland. Well, it is mathematically impossible. It doesn't look it. It is absolutely categorically mathematically impossible for Sunderland to finish in the playoff spots. So maybe there's a chance for Wednesday to go there, but I've mentioned before, I'm a Liverpool fan. The Stadium of Light's a tough place to go, even when Sunderland win the Premier League. So I'd imagine it will be quite the task for Wednesday to go and get a win there. I would say, just looking at it from my own personal perspective and from what I've heard from Wednesday fans who have been speaking to over the last couple of days, is that they're going to need 6 out of 9 here, points wise. And I think they've very much earmarked the Ewood Park trip. But Brom at home or Sunderland away, they're very, very difficult fixtures to go at and try and get some points. As I said, speaking to fans this week, and I've also had a little trawl through the various Owl fan forums, the feeling around the club, the feeling around the fans in Sheffield is that it's just simply now a step too far. That Stoke game of the weekend was one they should have went for. As I said, real 6-pointer, another relegation rival, but Stoke did get out there with a late equaliser at 1-1, and with that does seem like it is going to possibly be a bridge too far for Wednesday. But I mean, unlike United seem to have lost all hope in the Steel City. It seems like some Wednesday fans are clinching on to a little flicker, a little glimmer that they could take 6 out of these 9 possible. What do you think, Robbo? Do you think they've got a chance, mate?
It's a difficult one. It's, as we said, sort of like at the start of this podcast, everything is still to play for, and you know, you've got to sort of when you're in these fights, you know, obviously every point matters, but the games that you need to be winning are the ones where there's clubs around you, and obviously dropping points to Stoke at the weekend,
especially at home as well.
It wasn't 1 point gained; it was 2 points lost.
I agree,
and I think at that point it sort of moved the challenge to sort of like an absolute not a mountain to climb, but suddenly the mountain got a whole lot steeper.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I just spoke about the bookies odds a little bit before then. Wednesday, I've been slashed down now to 1-3 to go down, and Stoke have went all the way up to 9-1. So that tells you just how big of a swing and how big of a result that was for Stoke City at the weekend. But I suppose one thing that I've spoke to Wednesday fans about, and I've kind of had my own sort of quandaries about, is that I don't know what you think about this, Robert, but it's arguable that is it really that surprising that Wednesday are down there, especially in the manner that they got here? Don't get me wrong, it's by merit that they're in the Championship by merit, but they got there via the playoffs, and you know, you see what happened in the first leg of that semi-final when they go down 3-0. They had to then win 4-0 at Hillsborough just to reach Wembley, and then they were at Wembley. It wasn't a convincing performance. Don't get me wrong, it's not common that you see teams in cup finals have a real stellar performance or go there and drub a team, but it was 0-0. It went all the way into extra time, and it took a late Josh Windass winner to even achieve the Championship status. So as I say, even though it is on merit, is it really that surprising that they are where they are, Jack? What do you think?
No, I don't think it is surprising. You know, as you say, they are there on merit, but I said this to you before we started recording, is I feel like Sheffield Wednesday they just completely fell into the Championship. They were fighting all season, but then, you know, to go, I think it was it 3 or 4 goals down at against Peterborough in the first leg. That isn't that to 9 out of 10 times a team's going down, like they're going down without a fight, but somehow Sheffield Wednesday pulled themselves back into that fight, which fair play. But then they've got to go and do it again at Wembley, and you know, again, 9 out of 10 teams, that comeback would have been absolutely enough for them. But somehow Sheffield Wednesday, they didn't put in the best performance, but got up into the Championship. And, you know, credit where credit's due. Great job to get up there, despite the hardships that they face in the playoffs. Now, whether they felt they should have gone up automatically is a completely different story. But, you know, they got into the Championship. And then to have one of their worst starts to the season, I think, ever. They took 2 points from their first 10 games when Cisco Munoz was sacked. I mean, I can remember seeing forums back in like October, November time being like, is this Sheffield Wednesday side going to score the worst points total in Championship history? And now look, Rotherham United are currently tied for that. Like, I mean, we don't. It's a whole different story getting into what happened to Rotherham United, but you've got to give credit to Danny Roll here. It has been some turnaround for Sheffield Wednesday when people were talking about them going down in history, and now they've come into the sort of end of the season with a genuine chance of survival. Whether they can actually do it again is just a matter of wait and see, but I do think the odds are against them. But you know, they've pulled themselves back from where they were in the autumn, and are now fighting. So it feels like nothing's impossible for this Sheff Wednesday side.
Yeah, I agree.
Beyond automatic promotion, obviously.
No, I agree, mate. We briefly touched upon the fact that how tough of a place it is to go at Sunderland to go and get points. But in the run that I was talking about, where they won 5 out of 6 games between February and March, they did go to the Den and win 2-0 against Millwall. So this side, they do have
fight.
Yeah, they have that fight. They have the sort of the minerals to go to tough places and get results. So I'm sure they can probably hang the hat on that and go, you know, relive those sort of emotions and performances in the head before they go to places like Sunderland or Ewood Park. So, like I said, they have got that fight in them. They do seem to have the minerals. They do seem to be stepping up and being counted. You know, they've nearly pulled themselves out there. They had the same points as Rotherham when Roll came in, I believe, and now they've won 13 games since then. So, yeah, it is tough. It is tough, and it does seem a little bit of a... It does seem around Sheffield at the moment that the Owls fans do have a little bit of a sort of defeatist attitude, and you can probably understand why with that poor result against Stoke Hillsborough at the weekend. But they are still in there and they are still fighting, so I guess time will tell, mate. On Wednesday's battle to try and stay in the Championship, I spoke to sport editor Chris Holt of the Sheffield Star about the Owls this season and their prospects for maintaining their status at the end of the season. Hi Chris, Luke here, mate. Just spoke to a similar question to something you touched on with United there. You were saying they perhaps weren't ready, or maybe it was too early for them to go up to the division above. Do you think there's a similar sort of thing there with Wednesday, with them, the manner they got there and the dramatic win in the playoff final? Do you think they were ready to take that next step as well, much like United weren't?
I think they were more prepared. They probably don't have much of an excuse for where they've ended up now, apart from the fact that within a month or so of going up, they lost the manager who took them there. Employed someone who couldn't get a win, and by October, November, or whatever it was, they're on the back foot, employing the man who they probably should have employed in the first place. So I wouldn't say that they weren't ready or weren't capable. They certainly didn't have a squad that was top half championship, but they had a squad that was capable of keeping them in a division and allowing them the opportunity to kind of rebuild in the same way as I said earlier about Sheffield United. They keep them up there, bring a few young players in, bring a few new signings in, embed them into the squad, and then next season have a bit of a hull, as it were, and bring in fresh faces into the squad to try and build and eventually hopefully challenge for promotion. But it's just not worked out that way.
Yeah, you touched on a little bit on the current manager role. How much of an impact has he had on the club and in and around the club since? How vital has he been to this sort of like last minute push for survival?
Yeah, it's been huge and weird, really, because I mean he hasn't taken them out of the bottom three in the entire time he's been there, but up until the past couple of weeks, past week probably, there's just been so much positivity around the place. Still, even taking into account the fact that they still looked like, well, there was a fair chance that they were going to get relegated, and yet people were just, he's the man for us. It's okay. Whatever happens, Danny Rill's the man. We've got a good manager here. Just let him do what he needs to do. And so it's been strange in a sense that, I mean, nobody wants to get relegated, obviously, and Wednesday have kind of been through the mill over the past few years. But I think because of that, they've brought in this fresh new manager who's just so kind of enthusiastic, and he's bringing everybody along with him, and it's just kind of brought that positivity that they needed. Because so many things go wrong at Sheffield Wednesday, it's the one thing that has gone right in the past, I don't know, probably 8 years or so. So that's what they're clinging to, essentially. And Danny Rose brought that, and he could well still keep them up. I think they'll struggle to keep hold of them, if I'm honest.
I was going to lead on to that, so I'm guessing obviously there's a real desire for Wednesday fans to keep hold of them regardless of what the outcome is at the end of the season, and I will touch on the last 3 games with you just after this question as well. But you said it'll be difficult to keep hold of him. Do you think there's going to be an expectation that he will stay then, or do you think he may move on, especially with the impact he's had in such a short time?
Honestly, don't know. It's a strange one because it could essentially go either way. Nobody knows what kind of manager he is in terms of, he doesn't have any background history, so that we don't know whether he's the type of manager who's likely to jump at the first opportunity, or is he likely to stick in until, absolutely he has to leave. So because it's his first job, there's no real sense of what he could be like. In the few dealings I've had with him, and certainly in speaking to our Sheffield Wednesday writers who are obviously in contact with him quite regularly, he does seem like a man of conviction, and he has said that this was a project that he wanted, and this is why he came to Sheffield Wednesday. He wanted to rebuild them. So I would be probably surprised if he did leave. I'm going to contradict myself now. I'd be surprised if he did leave, but actually I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah. So that's
because,
sorry, mate. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, it's just only for the fact that you just can't predict anything in football these days. You just don't know, and anything could really happen. My gut feeling would be that he would stay. Having said that, if another club comes to him, who are, have a reputation for being well run, and they're going to offer him, money in the transfer market, they've got a good recruitment process, then perhaps he might see that as being a difficult opportunity to turn down. That said, he has been backed by the manager or by the chairman. Maybe not so much as they would like in the transfer market, but he did allow him to bring in an entire backroom staff, a fairly big backroom staff as well. So he's brought these people in from all over the world, essentially all over Europe. And part of that, I guess, makes me think maybe he will stay.
Yeah, okay, interesting stuff there. Just suppose back to the football. They really hampered their own chances of staying up with a poor result at Hillsborough against Stoke the other day. It was a real 6-pointer and they missed a chance. Just on the final 3 games, Sunderland, Blackburn, West Brom, just your gut feeling, or you personally, do you think they're going to do it? They're probably going to need 6 points, aren't they?
Yeah, up until last week, I thought they were going to do it. I think Saturday has probably knocked the stuffing out of them. Again, you don't know. You don't know how they're going to react. They probably do. You're right. They probably do need 6 points. Did they get that? I don't know. I mean, Blackburn is massive this weekend. They have had a superb win against Leeds over the weekend just gone. They've got the top scorer in the league. They probably only need one win or a couple of points to secure safety for themselves. And we'll probably see this as being one of the best opportunities to get that. So I don't fancy Wednesday's chances against Blackburn. And then you've got West Brom, who probably a few weeks ago maybe looked like they would have had the top 6 place already sewn up. And I'm not sure that's going to be the case by the time that match comes around. So they should have plenty to play for, which makes that all the more difficult. I think if I remember rightly, Hull have got a game in hand over West Brom, and that is just before West Brom go to Wednesday. So they'll have certainly a better idea of what they need to get from that match. And then Sunderland, who knows? They've been on a terrible run, seem to have picked up a little bit the past couple of games. If Wednesday need to win that last game of the season to stay up, I think they will. But I fear all will be lost before then.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Crunch Time. To listen to Jack and Chris give their thoughts about the other side of the Steel City, Sheffield United, check out our other episode titled A Foregone Conclusion. And we'll see you there. Bye-bye.